Like many cities, Los Angeles has a long history of tension between minorities and police. LAPD officer Deon Joseph says the road to reconciliation starts with prayer.
The way that I police with these people, the way I treat them, it pleases my Father in heaven. Because I'm fair to them. I don't care if you're black, white, I don't care if you're Muslim, Jew, gay, straight, I don't care who you are. If you need justice, I'm going to be fair to you and I'm going to work hard for you.
Under his leadership, crime on Skid Row has dropped 18%. He works hard to bring people together from all backgrounds. Today, he shares how the Lord leads him to change Skid Row by sharing faith, bringing justice, and building genuine relationships with those in need.
Hey, I'm working on a program.
Well, it's our honor to have on the show senior lead LAPD officer Deon Joseph, and it is an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate all you're doing.
All right.
You didn't want Skid Row.
No, sir, I did not.
You were like, what am I getting into?
Yep.
What changed your heart? How did you turn to love it?
Just being there for a few months, actually working the streets of Skid Row, kind of against my will. After a while, you had people coming up to me going, you know, there's something about you. There's something in your eyes. You're going to really try to help me today. And they were right. I couldn't turn them away. I'd be at end of watch overtime and like, okay, I'm going to stop and help you. And that comes from my upbringing with my parents. My mother and father were engaged in outreach their entire 47-year marriage by way of helping raise 41 foster children.
Wow.
In addition to me, my siblings, and my nephews and nieces. And they did it with a non-patronizing but unconditional form of love. And those kids really benefited from it, whether it was 2 weeks or 2 years that they were with us. And then my dad, he had a construction company. This is a man who came from the Jim Crow South, real hatred, and made something of himself, but he didn't forget where he came from. And he would hire individuals who had criminal records, who made mistakes, or who couldn't get jobs anywhere else because of racism, and he would give them a chance. And he never called them his employees. He always called them his friends. And then lastly, my mother would feed the homeless in a responsible way for 10 years up until she passed away. And the dedication she had was such that she missed birthday parties. She was late to my wedding because she had to feed the homeless. And so I realized after a while I was home.
It's unusual to hear somebody say Skid Row became my home.
Yep.
Because it's a place for the homeless.
Yeah.
And you pioneered something new where you, I'm trying to imagine myself, what would I do in facing those situations? And I'm afraid I'd give into hopelessness that, you know, what can you possibly do here? But you didn't.
No.
And what was the idea that you had to change things?
Well, I wanted to approach things from a grassroots level. I believe in something I call grassroots policing. It's, the programs that my department have are great and wonderful. But when I passed out information to the community with a department badge on it, since they were indoctrinated to fear and hate law enforcement officers, a lot of times they look at it and go, pfft. But they love me. So when I started passing out the same information from Officer Deon Joseph, and then put my personal thoughts and how I feel about serving them and how much I care about them, that's when they began to take those things into consideration, and really it started to change the relationship, relational dynamic with the community, to where it went from being, oh, there's that cop who's going to arrest us, to, oh, that's family right there. And that's what changed, coming from a grassroots perspective. Yeah.
That's unusual to hear, that you're dealing with people at Skid Row, and it's amazing. You've reduced the crime rate. Do you have any success stories, people that found homes and got their lives back?
I have a whole lot of stories, but we'd be here all day. But I'll tell you this.
You got a book of stories.
But I've been in...
I'll plug the book, where it's Diary of a Skid Row Cop. So if you want to have all those stories, you can have them.
Yeah.
But
I was able to house about 150 homeless people in 10 years. Now, that's nothing compared to the weight of what we're dealing with in Skid Row, but that was the 150 who actually wanted to change when we, at the time, created an environment where they could actually think towards change. Right now, and back then, the environment was so bad that the temptation to fail was too great. So those 150 people were people who desired change, and I just was glad to be the mechanism to help get them to another level in their life. So.
How important is it to get somebody to believe they can change? Because I imagine in that situation, there's a lot of forces that saying, there's no hope for you.
This is where my upbringing comes in. A lot of the foster kids we brought in when I was a child, they didn't believe there was any hope. They believed they were worthless. They were abused. I recognize that when I'm talking to a lot of people in Skid Row, they're scarred so deep, so deep. And they want somebody that's going to be real and genuine. Yeah, you can come once a month and throw food and clothes at me. That's nice. And then I'll take my halo off and continue to destroy myself. But for somebody to come in my position and walk with you every day, to shake your hand or give you a hug, I don't care if you're covered in scabies, I'll hug you and tell you how much I love you, if that's what you need. That's the difference maker right there. It's being human. It's figuratively putting down your uniform to be human so these people can begin to see your uniform as a beacon of hope.
What do you think about the current situation in America today? Are you seeing an increase of hostility on the street?
Well, absolutely. In many parts of LA, thankfully in Skid Row, I built such a relationship that nothing anybody can say can really tear it down. Like I said, I'm family. But we have some new faces that are coming to Skid Row due to recession and other issues, and they don't know me. So when they see me, I was just driving my car the other day, and some guy says, "How many bodies you got, officer?" Which means how many people have I killed? I haven't killed anyone in 20 years. But so we are seeing that broad brush painting of police officers having an impact on many members of the community. And that's why it's so imperative for us to be even more proactive in going out there and having those non-enforcement contacts with people, to really turn the tide. We're up against a lot right now, but I believe that if you keep loving, keep fighting, you can turn the tide.
How can churches help the local police?
How churches, particularly the African-American church, sit down and talk to us. Come sit down, talk to us. I always tell people, come for a Skid Row tour with me. Give me about 3 hours of your time and I'll change your life. I'll change your life. And you'll hear from my mouth, not from something you saw on social media, not from something you heard from some extreme group. You'll hear from my mouth how I feel about the community, and then you'll actually see the relationship I have with the community. Sometimes we have a term called breaking your tunnel vision in police work. And I believe there's this great chasm where both sides of this issue has tunnel vision. We're just stuck and beholden to our worldview because we're comfortable in it. My goal is to make you uncomfortable in your worldview and come out and meet with me and know that I love you. I want to serve you. I want to serve you. And so the churches would be extremely powerful if they would just encourage that. Just everybody thinking outside the box, putting down your walls, and let's build bridges. Because the church used to be very, very influential, years ago. Yeah. And I know that influence has been diminished, and it doesn't matter whether they're Christian, Muslim, whatever, but they used to be at the forefront of bringing people together, and that's where I think the church could benefit, not just the police, but all communities.
It's almost like the church is taking a back seat to it.
Unfortunately.
Instead of being the forefront of social change and social justice and helping people.
Right.
I think we've all suffered with this problem is too great and I don't have the skills or I don't have the ability or whatever.
And if you ever get to that point in your life, come talk to me. Because there was no challenge greater than Skid Row, and I'm still here. It's been 19 years, and I haven't gone there. And it's not. And right now, it's not good. Our hands are tied because of a lot of change in laws and change in viewpoints. And as a result, crime is beginning to skyrocket again. But I still haven't left. So I may have lost a few victories, but the one victory they can't take away from me is the relationship I've built with the people, and I believe that's important. In the whole scheme of things.
What would you say to folks that say what we need is increased law and order?
You know what? There needs to be a balance. You know what? There are two sides that can be very dangerous if they have too much power. Now, I'm obviously a crime control advocate. I believe in law and order. But if you give crime control advocates too much power, then people often tend to be left in the cold or over-marginalized. That can happen. Okay, that's real. Then you have due process advocates. Some of their hearts are in the right place, but if you give them too much power, then you take away the ability for police to adequately keep people safe. So there has to be balance. There has to be balance in between the two. I always say, and I'm not talking about political preferences, but there are two ideologies that created Skid Row. There's the extreme super right, which believes in NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Get these homeless out of my area, ship them down to Skid Row so we don't have to deal with them because they have quote unquote services there. And then you have this other extreme which says, well, because these people are poor, because they're homeless, because they're disenfranchised, we should just go hands off and let them do whatever they want to do in the name of humanism. One side creates this kind of concentration camp without walls, or asylum without walls, so to speak. And the other side, when you take the hands-off approach, puts them in danger. And the two extremes seem to be running the roost. That has to die. We all have to come to the middle and have middle of the road thinking on this. Yes, there needs to be enforcement to create an environment conducive to change. And we also need the programs designed to try to help people change to be bolstered. So let us create the environment as law enforcement officer so that those people can have more influence in changing people's lives.
Amen and amen. And I like to tell people, if you want to see down and outers, go to Skid Row, but realize this, you can never be too dead for a resurrection.
Absolutely.
So if you want to hear more Skid Row stories of resurrection, you can get a copy of Deon Joseph's book, Diary of a Skid Row Cop, and all you have to do is go to his website, deonjoseph.org, and you can get a copy of it. I encourage you to do that. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for praying.
Thanks.
Yeah, God bless you.